All right.
So now really simple sandwich that we can make with some sauteed mushrooms. We've already learned how to saute the mushrooms, so we're going to make a mushroom melt with Gruyere cheese, a little bit of thyme, and marbled rye.
Beautiful. Let's see how it's done.
So before we get started, we're going to just heat our pan to like low medium, 2 or 3 on the stove depending on the settings. That will just slowly start to heat up while we get our recipe started over here. A little bit of mayonnaise and some picked thyme leaves. Super simple. We're just going to add those thyme leaves and mix it in. That's just going to create a little bit of fresh herbaceous and a little bit of extra fattiness in our sandwich, because this is going to be a nice, rich, delicious sandwich.
Okay.
We're going to just spread a little bit of that inside 2 sides of the marbled rye.
And can you use any type of bread for this? Would you change anything?
Yeah, you can use any type of bread. I chose marbled rye because it's kind of got a little darker flavor, and it competes against the richness of those mushrooms. I think it complements it very well.
Okay.
But yeah, sourdough would be great, even brioche, any kind of bread that you like. You could add different herbs to the mayonnaise. You could you could add no herbs if you want. Sage would be great.
Always fresh herbs though.
I prefer fresh herbs. You could definitely use dried herbs. Fresh herbs just pack a much more powerful punch.
Okay.
We've got some Gruyere cheese that we just cut into little slices. So we're gonna add a little bit of that on both sides again.
Smells great.
And that's gonna add like a little bit of a nest once it melts. That's gonna kind of coddle around our mushrooms and create some extra cheesiness there. And then I like to use butter for this, but you can use an oil as well. Totally up to you.
You like butter just from a flavor perspective?
Flavor perspective, once it browns in the pan and toasts on the bread, it just creates a much richer, nicer, even flavor and color.
Are you using salted or unsalted butter?
Unsalted always.
Unsalted always.
Can always add salt. I like to use unsalted, and most professional chefs will use unsalted because if you have salt in butter, it will burn in a pan much faster.
So you said that you're on number 2, maybe number 3?
Yeah, just slow. You can see it's not browning at all. It's not smoking. It's just barely bubbling here and just melting. And we're just gonna put one of our pieces of bread face down and add some of our mushrooms right on top of that. Nice and evenly covered.
Very nice.
Then we're gonna bring our other piece, carefully place that down right on top.
Does that mayo kind of help hold the cheese in place when you go?
Yeah, it'll hold the cheese in place. You're gonna have to flip it carefully, but we're just gonna wait till some of that cheese melts, and that'll help kind of hold the mushrooms in place as well. Pressing it down. And this is just about slowly, patiently waiting, making sure that butter's toasting that bread. That way you'll get nice, even, beautiful golden brown color on it. If it were too hot, you'd get, a nice color around the edge and maybe not in the center, or in the center and not around the edge. This is going to ensure that that butter kind of soaks into that bread and then starts to toast it from a little bit from the inside out.
Okay. Are you going to add more butter when you flip it?
We'll assess when we flip, but you can see kind of how it's starting to take away that butter. So before we flip it, or when we lift it up to flip it, we'll add a little bit more butter as well, probably. All right. Ready?
Ready for the flip.
Got some nice color now. So we're gonna add a little more butter to the pan. Still see it's not very hot. It's just kind of bubbling and melting. And then, whoop, just like that.
So you really shouldn't hear like a searing or a hissing noise like you did with the saute, right?
No. This is much more gentle, much slow. You kind of hear it, bubbling a little bit. But much more gentle, much more low heat. Just kind of get that butter evenly around it. You can lift it up a little bit from the sides to make sure it gets soaked into the bread and underneath it. And you can see it's got a nice crust on it.
Yeah.
But it's not too toasted.
Tends to be one of the main things that people ask us is how to store them, if they should put them in the fridge, and if they should cook them. Which the answer is yes to both.
Yes. You can even, especially for something like this, you can saute them when you get them, and then you can put them in the fridge. And then you can have a bunch of sauteed mushrooms in the fridge. You can pull it out, make an omelet in the morning, make a sandwich for lunch, throw it in with a steak for dinner. That way you have something that's very easy, easy to grab out of the fridge, and minimal work needed to go into it throughout the day. So if you just want to make yourself something quick and that's pretty much ready to go, it's a good plan to have. I do that a lot with things. So like, you know, if we'll caramelize some onions, saute some mushrooms, cook down some spinach, so that in the morning you want to make an omelet, you can kind of pick your own ingredients and just easily throw it together with some eggs.
If somebody's thinking about doing some sort of prep work, cooking bulk mushrooms or batch making mushrooms, is there any tips that you have? Because the amount that you threw in was like relatively small. I mean, it was probably 6 ounces or so.
Yeah, use a biggest pan or a pot as you can. And just make sure that it's ripping hot when you put the mushrooms in, and don't overcrowd the pan. You can always do it in batches too. So if this is the biggest pan you have, you can process all your mushrooms and then throw them in at different times. I just burned the shit out of my finger.
Be good instant replay.
So if this is the biggest pan you have, you can...
All right, so now we've got both sides toasted. The cheese is all the way melted. You've got a beautiful mushroom melt. You can see here. Oh, wait for the cheese pull. Oh. Beautiful.
Look at that.
Melted, gorgeous.
Smells amazing.
Easy mushroom melt.
Boom.
Boom.